Are you ready to take a walk on the wild side? Cause this week, literally everybody's getting awesome stuff. Heck yeah, awesome stuff week. Let's just jump in. I don't even want to wait. Just roll to the intro. On the PC side of things, in the event keys, it's Pansvale's troop. Pansvale is of course the home of all the wild people on the planet, so if you're looking to get your hands on some wild people, this would be a kingdom that's worth opening up. Inside, we've got ourselves the Wild Queen, and we've got ourselves King Silenus, both of which are pretty noteworthy. Wild Queen, of course, makes a crap ton of green and a crap ton of skulls, also steals a crap ton of attack, gives it to your top person, also creates a bone storm when someone dies because she's wild like that, so she's super worth getting. On top of that, we've got King Silenus, who gives all Wildfolk 50% mana start. He's also impervious, so that's kind of fun. His damage output is pretty meh, but you do put him on teams just with a bunch of Wildfolk if you are trying to get him 50% mana start. So both of those troops worth opening event keys for if you so choose. I would say Wild Queen is totally worth it if you're able to get your hands on her. Beyond all of that, we've got ourselves a Battle Crasher this week. So if you want to destroy yourselves some Moas, you're going to see this bad boy everywhere, and whenever you kill him, it's going to be worth 500 gold. Hooray for us, 500 gold for killing a bird. Best bird kill of your life. Then we get to the event, which is an invasion. Invasion is going to be your tower smashy kind of thing. This is my straight up wild team that I'm planning on using, which is going to be a little ridiculous since the new troop is in here and we're going to shield her up and then hopefully we just smack him down with a bunch of skulls from Wild Queen. This team is straight up chaos. I want to try it just for fun, but I do have some safer options for you. But this is a good opportunity to talk about Ms. Rubitressa over here. So she's stealing 4 armor and then shifting it to attack, so she'll slowly pump her attack up by doing this. Nothing crazy. However, beyond all of that, she is doing damage to towers based on her ascension, so that's fun. Starts with 50% mana, also kind of fun. So that's out there, if you so choose. Other teams that you could potentially use with this would be this one. So this is a lot safer of an option when it comes to running the event. This is going to be using a Mang with a Wild Queen, so literally just these two could probably clear the event. However, we are running Rubitressa also with Sledgepaw here just for extra mana generation on top of all that. So this is another team you could run. Beyond all of that, if you have no troops at all, this team is another team you could use. So Mang with 2 mana generators and a Rubitressa sitting in it. Not necessarily the best team, but there's not a ton of synergy you can make with just pure Wildfolk teams. So this should be able to get your way all the way through as well. So that is kind of fun. As far as the Glory Shop troop that we've got this time around, so if you jump into the Glory Shop, we've got ourselves a Satyr Hunter. Super cool looking dude. Destroying an X pattern shape and then giving 22 attack to the first ally. This isn't like the worst troop on the planet. From an early game point of view, this would actually be pretty decent. Destroying gems will get you some mana. Giving attack to your first ally means that you're going to smack people a lot harder. Kind of fun. He's placing Hunter's Marks on enemies when he does skull damage, so there's a lot of weird little lineups people run these days where they like to run this kind of a troop in the top slot in a PvP context. So you could potentially use it for that as well. It does have some skull dodge, which makes him a little bit better of a frontliner. So not the worst frontliner in the world, not the worst mana generator in the world, not the worst spell ability in the world. I would say I rank him a solid, not terrible out of 10. Beyond all of that, we got a new weapon. New weapon is super cool for Bard type troops. So Bard of course is a Wildfolk kind of troop, so obviously when we look at this glaive of goats, we're gonna see, it's not yellow, cool. So as if Bard needed any more, crapping on, we've got ourselves a non-yellow Bard weapon. So this is going to at least make mana that is yellow and green, boosted by all Wildfolk allies. But unfortunately the weapon itself is not yellow, so that doesn't really help the Bard class, which is Wildfolk itself. So this is a weapon that you would run as a Bard to help your other Bardy troops that are yellow, but unfortunately isn't yellow itself, doesn't fill into itself, so I'm a little annoyed. It does make a Leaf Storm if you upgrade it all the way, so that's okay. The only problem with this is that since it's making yellow and green, it is destroying 3 random green as part of that spellcast. So you might mess up some loops that you end up creating. Still, not the worst mana generating weapon in the world. I do like the mana that it makes for the troops that it makes. I just wish it was yellow itself, because now the Bard class is just crying even harder, as if it needed any help being terrible. Then we get into the Soulforge. Soulforge this time around, troop-wise, is a fat old 0. Nothing in here. Weapon-wise, however, Yasmine's Pride, get this bad boy. It's a green shield. It destroys all the armor on an enemy and gives everybody on your team life on a 3-to-1 boost ratio. So what you normally pair this with would be troops like Yao and Ketras, if you're running delves or events that require like green troops or only explicitly green and red troops in certain delves. This weapon's super amazing to pair up with those guys since they both do extra damage boosted by life. This is a great weapon. You should absolutely make sure you grab your hands on this thing. Get it now. This is my command to you. Get it, get it, get it. And then we jump to the spoilers. In the spoilers section, since it's a wild week, we got ourselves a wild court. Wildcord Delve looks like this. Remember that cool weapon I just told you about? Well, here it is, being used with the exact troops I told you about. Holy crap. So if you've got Yasmine's Pride and Yao and Ketras and Possessed King, not exactly an easy lineup to make. However, you can smash through literally everything with just this team, all the way up to 500, so feel free to steal that. Of course, the codes will always be in the description. On Wednesday, we get a Billy the Kid style pet event. It's this guy. Wow, it's a cute little goat with the double beard chin situation going on. Cool, neato. Pansvale troop bonus. Feel free to grab that on Wednesday. And then on Thursday, we get literally nothing. But then, on Friday, we get ourselves a new little dwarvy boy. And it's this guy. The Slayer. It's got a weird little icon. It's like a dwarf, kinda, with 2 axes coming out of its head. You know, Slayer's gotta slay. The talents on this thing are kinda... it's looking a little bit like the Warlord, not gonna lie. It's basically a Warlord with the War Tree and the Fire Tree, but then it also has the Death Tree. Unfortunately, the Death Tree really doesn't have anything, so we're kinda looking at a class that's basically Warlord 2.0. And from a traits perspective, it's especially like Warlord 2.0. So basically from a traits perspective, you're gaining enrage when an enemy dies, which is fine, I guess. However, you do get this just naturally on Bloodthirsty, so when you get the class up to level 70, this becomes more or less meaningless because the Bloodthirsty trait will be triggering way more often than this ever will. And then its third trait is just inflicting bleed on enemies when an enemy dies. So this class is unfortunately kinda meh. This is a meh class. The, Warlord basically, you could make any team with the Warlord and run the exact same team with the Slayer and they'll both be equally mediocre. So, unfortunately, the Slayer class, not the best. When it comes to the weapon, it's going to be this Death Dealer thing. So Death Dealer is basically just doing damage to an enemy, and if they're bleeding, they take double damage, and then there's just a 10% chance they die, boosted by Doom Skulls. So if you happen to have a crap ton of Doom Skulls on the board, there's a slightly higher chance they're just gonna die. I don't see myself literally ever using this, but it exists. From a upgrades perspective, it's creating a Doom Skull, it's enraging, it's doing a little splash damage, it's bleeding, so meh. Unfortunately, the Slayer class to me is looking like a pretty big dud. The weapon is also a pretty big dud. So, Slayer class, it's out there. Cool icon, but unfortunately, nothing else really all too exciting from that point of view. But that is everything for us on the PC, mobile, Xbox, PlayStation side of things. Let's check on in with the switcheroonies. Switch folks, what? Switch folks, in the event chest this time around, you are getting some Maugrim Woods goodness. We jump on over to the Maugrim Woods. It's the deep dark woods in the darkness. We get ourselves a Wolfgarok and a Forest Guardian and a Kerberos. Kerberos, sure. These are the 3 that you would want to be getting if you are opening up event keys. Wolfgarok is still kind of not the best mythic on the planet. However, you can do some cheeky situations with him. His whole gimmick is that if you kill someone with his spell ability, he'll devour somebody else. The one thing that doesn't necessarily work in your favor with Wulfgarok is that his damage output isn't very high, so trying to set up a kill with this is kind of hard to do. On top of that, the devouring a random enemy thing, this isn't always going to work because sometimes the person you randomly try and devour is devour immune. However, still not the worst troop on the planet. Putting him on a team with other Wargear will get some benefit. He'll gain 2 attack and magic every single time you do a 4 or more match. So unfortunately, there's really no Wargears you're ever gonna pair him up with, but he at least is one himself. So he will be boosting his own attack and magic every single time you get a 4 or more match. So Wulfgarok out there, not the best, not the worst, but he exists. Force Guardian, however, is the best boy in this whole situation. Just, I mean, look at him, so frickin' regal. God dang, those horns, wow, antlers, sure. All beasts start with 50% mana, so this immediately is pretty great. If you're running the Warden class, for instance, there is no lineup that you would run as a Warden that wouldn't have Force Guardian on it for the most part. So Warden class, of course, is a beast type. Force Guardian's giving all beast type 50% mana. He's also a double converter, so he's converting purples into skulls and then browns into greens. And then on top of all that hotness, he's also giving all beasts barrier. So all beasts 50% mana and all beasts barrier with his spell ability. So super sick troop. Force Guardian, super great. Kerberos is basically just your poor man's version of a High King Iron Gut. So if you don't have High King Iron Gut or any other kind of like useful devour situation, you can use a Kerberos to basically just try and sneak out devours. So that's basically literally all he's used for. All of this stuff is whatever. Soul farming if you so choose, but I wouldn't put him on a soul farming team really. But he does have 40% chance to devour, so that's kind of fun. That is your event keys. As far as the Battle Crasher this week, so you're going to see this thing show up in all your fights this week, and every time you punch him in the face, you're going to get 500 gold for it. This poor little bird doesn't deserve it, but we're all going to do it anyway. He's going to pop up in all your PvP and Explore fights, so feel free to kill him every single time he pops up for 500 gold. That's fun. Then, for the event, you guys get a Climb the Tower of Doom style event. In there is going to be some really, really nice weapon. So you need to make sure that you are jumping in and getting this weapon, if nothing else, because this is the best Doom weapon in the game. The reason it's the best Doom weapon in the game is because, first off, it's just doing damage to a crap ton of people and then converting into Doom Skulls, so this is always really fun. But then when it comes to its upgrades, we get an Entangling the first enemy, we also get a Summoning of a Leaf Storm, and then it's doing damage, and then it's also draining mana. So this weapon is bananas. If you love PvP in any context, this is your best friend. So please, please, please make sure you jump in and grab the Doomglaive. Of all the doomed weapons, it is my favorite. I suspect and believe it is the best. So that is my PSA for that. As far as teams that you'd be using to smash on through, for the lower level players, this is a Mang with 3 converters behind it. The nice thing about this is that you'll get a little life, you'll have access to cleanse, and you basically have all the mana you could ever possibly want. So this team should actually be pretty fun to use, and also fairly darn effective. So that team will be out there, code in the description. For the higher level players, you can use something like this, which is kind of the same situation with lots of mana converting, but it's also forcing skulls onto the board and also fairy firing everybody just for kicks. This team should be mighty fun to use as well. So this team will also be in the description for your using pleasure. As far as the new Glory Troop this time around, it's a tracker. Wow! He's creating green and red mana and then summoning a couple direwolves, so this is whatever. I'm not necessarily the biggest fan of this spell ability. From an early game point of view, this would actually be really nice. From a mid-game, end-game point of view, this will be pretty much terrible. But if you are watching this video and this is like the first or second or third week of playing Gems of War, by all means, feel free to grab this troop out of the Glory Shop. This troop isn't so bad from an early game point of view. End game, never ever. It is also doing a Hunter's Mark on enemies when it does skull damage, so that's kind of fun. It has a chance to just straight up ignore skulls, or ignore armor when it's doing its skull damage, and it's getting bonus green mana. So overall, you can put this dude in your top slot and just sneak out some sneaky kills, because when he hits somebody, he is going to put the Hunter's Mark on them first and then do the skull damage. So if you put a Hunter's Mark on somebody and then it does this ignoring armor thing, Tracker is going to just straight up like kill them sometimes, because It's doing double skull damage when you hit them, and then it might just skip the entire armor part of their, health. So, he's doing 44 damage on my screen. You imagine you're doing double, so he's doing 88, and then if it ignores the armor, it's basically doing 88 true damage when you match a skull. So a lot of people build lineups where you just put this dude at the top and you hope you sneak out a lot of kills, similar to like a web spinner. I'm not the biggest fan of it, but, it's a thing. People do it. So Tracker's out there, and that's not the worst thing on the planet. In the Soul Forge for you guys this time around, you got some sick options here. So you've got a Pharos Ra, so he's going to be your soul collecting boy. He's getting 150% bonus souls. So this is a very high value craft as far as soul farming is concerned, so certainly pretty cool. Nothing else it does is pretty interesting from that point of view. From a spell ability perspective, so this is transforming yellows to purples and then dealing damage boosted by the amount of souls that you've got. So the nice thing about running a Pharos on your team is that the maximum number of souls you can collect will jump up from 40 to, I believe, 100. So that's really nice. When you have this dude on your team, basically his spell ability is going to do very little damage at first, and then the second shot you're going to shoot is going to do like pretty decent damage, and then the shot after that is going to be doing like crazy damage. So he does have a little bit of a wind-up unless you have some other way of generating souls, but in general, as far as soul farming is concerned, he is an absolute must-get. So he's out there. If you are looking for some soul farming goodness, he's your boy. However, you do have the king himself of the Possession King, the ultimate mythic in the game as far as I'm concerned. So he's exploding gems randomly when you do any 4 or 5 match, so this is already really sick, and this is pretty much the entire reason you use him. His spell ability is pretty sweet. It does do damage to all, which is whatever. The boost is terrible. But it does have a chance to transform in 3 different instances of a 20% chance. So this is pretty sweet as well. You can save a fight if you're about to lose and use Possessed King to basically like turn the really scary people into little wimpy kitties, and then you win the fight anyway. But this is really why everyone uses Possessed King for the most part, and it is sick. It is god tier. I have him ranked as the best mythic in the game, so I would say that between the two of them, I personally would recommend getting Possessed King over Pharos Ra. However, you do you. If Pharos Ra seems like your thing, by all means jump in and grab yourself a Pharos Ra. But that is everything in the regular section. Let's jump into the spoilers. In the spoilers section, we've got ourselves a Primal Rift faction assault on Tuesday. So Primal Rift, this is the team that you can use to smash on through all the way up to 500. The code will of course be in the description for your using pleasure. On Wednesday, we've got ourselves a Toy Soldier pet event. It's a cute little toy soldier. Look at him. You wind him up and off he goes with his little sword. It's so darn cute. But that is going to be on Wednesday. And then on Thursday we get nothing. Nothing, you say? Why do we get nothing on Thursday? Because on Friday, you guys get yourself a class event for this hot boy. You can probably tell by the fact that I have mine up to 100 that it doesn't suck. So Sentinel class is really, really, really good. This class is amazing. You have to make sure that you get this class and get as much XP on it during this event as you possibly can. From a trait perspective, we're looking at 3 to all skills in the first position, which is, whatever, this is fine. Reducing skulls by 40% is super sweet, but then it has this 25% chance to barrier a random ally at the start of your turn. Normally I would crap on this kind of a thing, but the way the the way the Sentinel class kind of works, this isn't so bad, because Sentinel is something that is like your ultimate event class for the most part. And the reason for this is because we have ourselves the Stone Tree, which is super sweet. So now we have a class that gets access to barriers on browns that has natural skull resistance of 40%, which is really nice. Really, really nice. On top of that, it has Fortitude, which makes it immune to most debuffs. It also gets Impact, which will stun people when they hit it. It also gets Banishment, which will dispel all enemy buffs on any 4 or 5 match. So when it comes to events, the Sentinel is kind of like your ultimate beefy boy that you can just chuck at the front of your lineup and run it with like a Mountain Crusher and then pretty much put literally anything else underneath it and have a really good time. So Sentinel class is extremely high value. But if that wasn't enough to entice you, My god, can we talk about this Shield of Urskaya that you're going to get your hands on. Oh my god, let me actually show it to you in the weapons menu. You know why? Because the upgrades on it are even freaking good. That's how good this weapon is. So this weapon is going to turn any troop that cares about armor into the ultimate troop. So this is going to give an ally, you know, armor, but then it's boosted by all enemy attack. So what this means is that in any kind of event with all the scaling stats that we have in the game, this is going to give some troop a shite ton of armor. So this is going to turn troops like Guard's Avatar, Rowain, Tesla into like god tier troops. It's also something you could pair up with like an Ethereal Sentry and take a troop that has a crap ton of armor and then all of a sudden they have a crap ton of attack. This weapon is super duper sick. On top of just that being really cool, it also enrages and barriers them. So holy crap, the troop that you just targeted with this is a super beefy, angry, protecty boy. Super cool. But then on top of all that, it also puts a barrier on yourself, so never mind whoever you cast it on, they get a barrier, but now you get a barrier. And then it blesses itself, like what the heck, and then it stuns the first enemy? Like, Jesus Christ, this weapon does it all, my friend. So from a defensive weapon point of view, this weapon is like god tier, and pairing it up with those troops that I mentioned earlier is also god tier. So you guys need to get your hands on this weapon, need to get your hands on this class. Class and weapon, both super sick. And I hope you have fun with that. But that is everything for you guys. Let's take it to the outro. So there you have it for the week. Christmas has come early. Give thanks to the devs for giving us these cool troops and things. If you feel like checking me out on Twitch, please do that. I stream this game. I talk just as ridiculously as I do in these videos. It's a good time. But beyond all of that, I hope you guys have an awesome week. For folks that are celebrating the holiday, happy Thanksgiving, gobble gobble, etc., etc. I will see you in the next video. Peace!